Right now, though, folks, the governor of the great state of North Carolina, His Excellency, Pat McCrory. Good morning, sir. How are you?
It's an honor to have you in Raleigh, Henry.
I actually introduced you 3 times on Inauguration Day, and every time they told me to say His Excellency, and I never knew that was the official
introduction. It's either or Your Excellency,
Your Excellency
for short.
Oh.
I didn't know this either when I was sworn in, and the Chief Justice said, "And Your Excellency." I looked at my wife, and she gave me a look like, "You've got to be kidding." So I didn't realize. I thought they made a mistake.
Excellent.
I thought they made a mistake, but it's an official title, and my wife still refuses to call me that. I've tried to get her to.
I've actually heard that before. Are you doing okay?
I'm doing good. Working hard, but having fun. I'm having a ball.
Just talking to some
Got
of
my
your,
U.S. Open tie on.
Yeah, I saw some pictures from you. I know you were down there with my friends at the radio station.
Yeah, staying at John Scavarla's house, Secretary Scavarla's house.
We were just talking about our mutual friends down in Pinehurst. Big week in Pinehurst, and that's been a big deal for the state of North Carolina. A lot of great publicity for 2 solid weeks.
We're also recruiting a lot of businesses. In fact, this week I'm having a lot of women-owned businesses come and meeting them and talking to them. And last week we had businesses from all over the world come in, and it's been a very successful recruitment effort. And we got some good news in Raleigh today with Advanced Auto Supplies moving their headquarters for the whole nation, and that's great news for the Raleigh area, which spills over in all areas of the state. We've been working hard on that for the past 2-3 months.
In fact, we've talked about this before when you've been on. You've spent a lot of your time since you became governor a year and a half ago recruiting industry and bringing new jobs to North Carolina. Been very successful at that, but you had another successful announcement this week down in Smithfield, I understand.
We're doing announcements all over the place. Cisco, Smithfield, Advanced Auto, had a Japanese candy maker in Mebane. Very good announcement there, and we expect some more announcements to come in the very near future. Sharon Decker, my Secretary of Commerce, is doing a great job, and she and I are great partners. And about every day we're talking to companies and selling North Carolina, and we've got a lot to sell.
Bring some east to Raleigh, will you?
We're getting some. We're talking to some good groups who are very interested, and we're also looking at Kinston, Rocky Mount, Greenville, New Bern. We're selling constantly.
Yeah.
And Wilmington. Wilmington's got some good potential, too.
And Secretary Decker, we've had her on several times before. She's very impressive. In fact, I've been impressed. I think that the cabinet that you put together is a group of the most impressive folks we've ever had in state government. And I'm not just saying that, I really believe it.
John Scavarla's looking at us right now, so I've got to agree with that.
I think Secretary Scavarla is one of the top. I really do.
I've got the best cabinet team in the United States of America, and I think I got the best cabinet that North Carolina's ever had. I mean, we meet every Tuesday morning and have about a 2-hour meeting, and they work together, they share ideas together, they share resources together. And they're very loyal to me and my administration, and they're very smart, too. I promised I'd surround myself with people a lot smarter than me, which some people would say wasn't hard to do, but too low a benchmark. But I'll tell you, I got a great team, and I'm proud of my team, very proud of my team. And the media doesn't play them up much. Tata, Secretary Tata, Secretary Scavarla, Secretary Aldona Voss, they only play her up in a negative sense, and she's one of the most brilliant individuals that I've ever been around and doing a good job.
Governor Pat McCrory here live this morning in Raleigh. Across the street, they're hammering out compromise on the budget. The conference committee, I guess the conference committee's begun its work. Has it, or is it start today?
I don't think it's started yet. I think it's starting this week, hopefully. Yeah. So we're on ongoing communications with both the House and Senate. Last night I was with Speaker Tillis, had dinner with him, and then today I'll be with some Senate leaders and expressing where I agree and disagree with their current budget and also some of their current legislation.
The way the budget works, for folks who don't know, the governor puts out his version of the budget. It goes,
which they should have just done. I mean, that should have just ended right there. Things would be a lot simpler.
You just don't need any more ratification.
I mean, come on.
After the budget comes out, it goes to the legislature. Both chambers pass their version of the budget, and then there is a conference committee appointed, and then a compromise on the 3 versions of the budget are worked out, and that's kind of where we are.
It's not always a compromise. Sometimes you just persuade So it's a discussion and hopefully a consensus. It's not all necessarily a compromise, but hopefully you'll reach a consensus. And that's what my goal is. But there's some differences in the budget and also some of the philosophy within the budget right now between the House and the Senate and the executive branch, which is good. It's good to have that discussion, and I hope the public hears that debate and helps determine which direction we go in the future.
Been well publicized that the Senate version of the budget is vastly different than the House and your version of the budget. Would you say that your version of the budget and the House of Representatives budget was pretty close?
Pretty close. Probably the only disagreement we've had with the House version, although there are a few minor issues. We probably disagree with some of the calculations on the use of the gambling money. We probably think they're overestimated, and that needs to be scaled back tremendously. But that's the major difference with the Senate budget. Probably the major difference we're having is the teacher pay raise formula, in which they frankly will have to cut thousands upon thousands of teachers' assistants, and we strongly disagree with that calculation. And they also did not include the career pathways plan, which allows promotions for teachers in the long term. So we think we'll make some progress, hopefully. I feel very strongly about our teacher pay raise proposal, but also our teacher reform proposal, I think, is historic for North Carolina. And so that's probably where I have a major disagreement with the Senate. School
teacher raises have been the top priority of everybody, I think, since the last legislative session. How to get the teachers a raise, how much they should receive, and some of the other things that are policy issues, as you were speaking to, have been the big drawback. The main concern right now, it seemed as though there are some extremes, as you mentioned, in the Senate budget. Not only cutting teacher assistants, but a lot of incredible deep cuts into Medicaid. And then on the other side, the House is saying they're going to advertise the lottery more, and they're going to increase revenues with the lottery. But those are that's going to be the main storyline of this budget now for the rest of the session, I would imagine.
I would probably agree with you. As I say, they should have just gone with our budget. We didn't have either one of those issues.
I was going to say, your budget may end up being the one that comes out.
We feel pretty confident that our budget's pretty strong. We did have one gap that we've got to fill due to some number difficulty with Medicaid, but we think we've come out with some good solutions, and I hope we're going to reach a consensus there. But the lottery numbers have got to be revised, and there's no way as governor that I'm going to support those cuts to the teachers' assistants and also have just a one-time compensation for teachers versus a long-term compensation plan and reform plan where we can evaluate teachers too based upon their experience, where we can on their degree and their marketability based upon their leadership. This would be not only historic for North Carolina, but historic for the nation, where we'd actually have a promotional tool for teachers, but based upon results, not just based upon how many years you stick around. And I think that sends a very strong signal to the teaching profession and to parents and to students alike. And it's something that our teacher pay plan was supported by superintendents across the state. And I anticipate them coming forward and speaking out in favor of our plan, and that more resembles the House plan at this point in time.
Dr. David Herman is here from the CEO of Vidant Health.
We're working with them and other hospitals closely on Medicaid reform right now, which is another area of Medicaid. Probably a major disagreement we have is cutting benefits to Medicaid, which I think is the wrong time to do that at this point in time before we have Medicaid reform. So we're trying to work with the hospitals and the doctors and insurance companies for long-term Medicaid reform so we can have more consistent cost projections in addition to better quality of service in North Carolina. And Aldona Voss, my Secretary of Health and Human Services, has, I think, come out with a great proposal. I think the House may move on it, and I see that movement going on right now. We did a press conference with hundreds of doctors 2 weeks ago in their white coats. They came to the mansion, and they're getting behind it, and I'm seeing some action in the House. I think the big issue is going to be the Senate.
Yeah, it was last year, yeah. and it's probably going to be again. We're hoping to have some members of the Senate come over later this morning. We think Harry Brown, maybe some other folks will be here. We see Representative Brian Brown has just come in, looking like Haywood Hale Bruin, by the way.
He does. He's.
Is Tim Moffitt beginning? Is Tim Moffitt now?
He
your
probably doesn't
fashion
even know
consultant?
Haywood. You're showing your age.
He doesn't know who that
He
is.
doesn't know. I know who that is. He does not. You don't know who he is, do you? Oh, come on.
He's seen pictures in the encyclopedia.
His history, his fifth grade history
that?
book.
Oh yeah, it's Haywood Helbrun Senior and Junior. He knows Junior.
See, I don't even know that. Maybe I'm showing my age then.
Yeah,
nice
Representative
coat.
Brown is very.
I can't get away with something like that. Legislators can get away with that.
No, if you wear a coat like Brian Brown's
You
got
can't
on
get
this
elected
morning,
statewide wearing a coat like that. You can in a district.
You know, I was just talking to Josh Elliott, your communications director, and he made me aware of something I didn't even know. The Senate actually voted 49-0 yesterday to support your economic development plan. So you and Secretary Sharon Decker must have done some good work there.
Sharon Decker's the best in selling legislators, and she's worked the hallways. I stayed the heck out of the way and let her do her job. You know, one thing I've learned is if you got a good salesman, let that salesman close the deal. And
But this is a new economic development plan for the state.
it's a whole new effort to provide better customer service, quicker service. So when companies are thinking about expanding in North Carolina or thinking about coming to North Carolina, we've got a department that's very nimble and quick and not full of bureaucracy, which we've had in the past. And that's been a real problem in the past. And even without that, right now, Sharon has taken steps to move forward where she immediately comes to me and goes, Pat, no or go. Governor, no go or go. And the customer demands quick action because that's what South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, Tennessee, Texas, Ohio, or Wisconsin, that's our real competition right now.
Yeah.
My fellow Republican governors are my competition. I told Nikki Haley that, you know, when she helped get me elected and campaign for me, I've told you this, I think. I said, Nikki, we're going to take you down in South Carolina. And she said, may the best woman win. So I hired Decker,
Yeah.
you know, and she's doing a great job.
She is doing a great job. Governor Pat McCrory, and I know you got to go back to work. Let me ask you when. In fact, here comes Senator Brown. When do you think we'll see a budget? Any ideas?
I don't know. Again, I'm going to be having some good conversations with Senator Brown and Senator Berger and others in the very near future, and we're going to try to figure out the process and get consensus on how much money we actually do have and use accurate data, something my budget director will demand and I demand of him. And then we'll have our discussions on education, on Medicaid reform, on some other important issues that are very important to this administration, to the future of the state.
Well, you know, the medical industry, and you and Secretary Vosch and Budget Director Art Pope have been very supportive of Eastern North Carolina's medical industry, and that is our bread and butter.
It's not just the medical industry; it's the medical school there too.
Absolutely.
And you've got a unique situation in Greenville where you have a private hospital, but they're working hand in hand with a medical school, which is quite unique in the nation and, of course, in the state, because it's not a public hospital, you know, owned by the state. So we've got to keep that partnership alive. You know, one thing Secretary Voss and myself understand is we've got some rural areas of the state that are really having a tough time recruiting good doctors and finding the proper medical care, even not just for surgeries and basic medical care, but also for things like mental health. And that's why Greenville's led the way. I went down to Greenville, led the way in telepsychiatry. And we want to expand that to many other areas. And East Carolina's led the way for the rest of the state and the nation in that area. And we're actually borrow that whole concept and take it to the rest of the state. I'm proud of East Carolina, what they've done there.